everyone, welcome to Sheridan Music Studio. Tonight is Merdinger's Musings about Franz Schubert, the gift of song. And I'm delighted to introduce you to my daughter, Stefanie Greene. She is a soprano and she's a cantor in training at Hebrew Union College and in a cantorial intern in, what's the name of your synagogue in Pittsburgh?
Well, I just wrapped up at Stephen Wise Free Synagogue on the Upper West Side of New York. And starting July 1, I'll be working at Temple Ohav Shalom in Allison Park, Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh.
So tonight we're going to do some songs by Schubert, and I will play a sonata by Schubert, and then we have a little surprise at the end, so we won't tell you what that is. We're going to do the 4 songs first, and the surprise at the end will involve Stefanie, so she'll come back for that. But right now I'd just like to talk about Schubert, because Schubert was a composer, sort of like Beethoven, bridged the classical and romantic eras. Mostly he's considered a romantic composer, but his life was so short. He died at the age of 31, which is exactly the age of you, Steffi.
Yeah, I actually was doing some research for this, and that was a little jarring because Schubert wrote over 500...
600,
sorry,
over 600
liter in his lifetime, and he died at 31, and I'm 31, and I haven't nearly had anywhere near those kinds of accomplishments, so...
I would say you're pretty accomplished, Steffi, but I'm very proud of everything that you've accomplished, and you're one of my accomplishments, so... Anyway, so what do we know about Schubert? Well, fortunately, Schubert was a prodigy, so his talents showed themselves at a very early age when he was studying piano with his older brother and violin with his dad, and he quickly surpassed them within a very short time, maybe a matter of a few months. So his talent was very, very exceptional at a very young age, and a lot of us know the story about him, being, buried in a pauper's grave. The fact is that he was quite poor, and I think that this, certainly contributed to some of the sentiments the emotion that you hear and feel in his music. The level of depth in his symphonies, in his late sonatas, is so extraordinary. It's really hard to believe that it could be composed by someone in their 20s. And so what we do know is that he studied the works of Haydn and Mozart and Beethoven, and he was a pupil of Antonio Salieri. His music is classical in the one sense. I think the textures are certainly lighter than you might consider most romantics, and in some ways his music is very Mozartian. A lot of people say the main thing about his output, his works, is that they are all based on the lyricism and the song, the gift of the melodies that he wrote, which are so memorable. And a lot of people don't really, I think, pay homage to his gift for harmony. And to me, the harmonic shifts that he has and the color that he employs with the changes and harmonies is what makes his music, to me, so extraordinary.
Right. And I think, a lot of people talk about and reference Schumann more so than Schubert generally, I'd say. Yeah. When we're talking about songs with and sonatas and pieces with interesting chromatic harmonies, but actually they really built upon Schubert.
Yeah.
They were contemporaries of Schubert, and so Schubert was really kind of the original, but we don't always think about it as much because Schumann is the composer who's known for the interesting postludes, really harmonically intriguing postludes.
Yeah.
And and throughout the pieces as well, but also, a lot of times we talk about the postludes with Schumann, whereas Schubert really works these interesting chromatic shifts into the body of the works themselves, which is not that Schumann doesn't, but that there's a different kind of sleight of the hand, if you will, in their
Also,
compositional
Schubert,
writing.
in his songs, he does a lot of word painting. I think what's extraordinary, he wrote many more songs than did Schumann, but what's extraordinary about Franz Schubert's songs is how he set the texts. And tonight we're going to hear Stefanie sing some absolutely beautiful lieder by Franz Schubert, and I'm going to allow you to read the translations and we can discuss the interpretations. There are usually there's a superficial translation you can interpret on a superficial level, but a lot of scholars dig a little deeper and say there's a little bit more meaning, and we will discover that with the surprise at the end. But for now, we should discuss the songs that you're about to sing. I wore flowers today because we're going to open with Heidenröslein, which is about a rose. Well, not really about a rose, but about a little boy, a young man. Stefanie, take it away and read the German first and then the English translation.
Sure. Well, they're going to hear the
You're
German.
going to hear the German. Okay, so
I'll
just
kind
read the English.
of give a description of the translation, a little bit about each song. So Heidenröslein is one of many. Schubert is known for really the strophic song. Not all of his songs are strophic, certainly out of 600, but many of them are. And Heidenröslein is one of those, and also the surprise one later is also one of those strophic songs. But Heidenröslein is really a very simple melody. It's almost very folk song like.
It's so simple, I have to interject. My relationship to this piece, I asked Stefanie to do it. The reason why, it's because I took secondary voice when I was studying at the Yale School of Music. And it's because I wanted to have an insight into what singers have to deal with. And I wanted to, possibly consider vocal coaching as, one of my, things that I might go into and pursue in music. And I was delighted. I worked with this Robert Spellman at the, I think it was his name, at the Yale Norfolk Music Festival, and we did tons and tons of lieder of Schubert and Schumann and Brahms in particular. But this song, Heidenröslein, was the song that I had to sing for a jury myself as a grad student. As a piano major in a master's degree, Master of Music program, I had to sing this. I was petrified, and, I always took solace in that as a pianist, when you perform, you don't have to look at the audience. And when all of a sudden I was faced with having to look at the jury there, and I had to perform a vocal jury for my secondary voice lessons, let me tell you, you do not want to hear me sing. But having raised a singer, I've gained such appreciation of how a voice is trained. And, not everyone's just born with a beautiful voice. It requires a lot of work, a lot of training, and I have gained not only a great recognition of that from my own studies when I was a grad student way back when, but watching you bloom as an artist, as a singer, and going through all of the studies, and I can't even imagine having to learn all the languages and all the diction. But Steffi, let's hear the translation of the first song.
I'm not going to give
a synopsis.
I'll give a synopsis of what's happening. So basically, in Heidenröslein, the first verse, there's a young boy who sees a rose in the field, and he quickly dashes across the field to grab it, and he's filled with the little rose, Heidenröslein, Röslein rot is Röslein auf der Heiden, little rose of the field. In the second verse, the boy says to the flower, "I will pick you," and the rose says, I will stick you, I will prick you, and so you'll always think of me. That's really a metaphor for love, right? In this case, the boy is the man, and the rose is the woman. Rose is the girl, and so there's a little hinting at a tumultuous relationship there. Still, the boy picked the rose, and the little rose fought and pricked him, and nothing could make the rose feel better, and so the rose must suffer. And the little rose of the field.
So what do we discover in this song and many others of Schubert's is that the topic is very often of love, and love, death, also, they're just any number of topics, sometimes nature, all kinds of interesting things. Let's go on to the next song that we're going to do.
Gretchen am Spinnrade is probably one of Schubert's most famous songs. The text
is from Goethe's Faust, and I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
The beautiful thing about this piece is the piano accompaniment is really, it's Gretchen at the spinning wheel, that's the title, but he is certainly using the figuration in the piano to give the imagery, the sort of word painting of what spinning wheel.
I'm Gretchen, you're the spinning wheel.
I'm the spinning wheel.
That's literally how the song is composed, and Schubert uses the piano as a character.
Yeah.
It's
so integral to the interpretation of this song. Like to just sing the melody of this song without hearing the piano part would not have the same effect. So whereas Haydn Roslein is just a very simple plunk plunk of accompaniment, this is one that really requires more of the pianist, and it contributes a lot more to the total interpretation and the sonority.
Sure, and I think also Gretchen is similar to another one of Schubert's songs, which we're not doing tonight, but very famous Erlkönig, in how the piano is used almost as a character. In that song, it's Mein Vater, and kind of going between the different experiences of the narrator in that song, and in this song, it's really the Gretchen and the spinning wheel painting this picture of the scene.
I think you should read the full translation of Gretchen. Because I think you should read it just so people know when we get there. We're going to sing them. We're going to play and perform them in succession. So
I'll just read this English translation. My peace is gone. My heart is heavy. I will find it never and never more. Where I do not have him, that is the grave. The whole world is bitter to me. My poor head is crazy to me. My poor mind is torn apart. My peace is gone, my heart is heavy, I will find it never and never more. For him only I look out the window, only for him do I go out of the house. His tall walk, his noble figure, his mouth's smile, his eyes' power, and his mouth's magic flow, his hand clasp, and his kiss. My peace is gone, my heart is heavy, that's the refrain, I will never find it, never and never more. My bosom urges itself toward him, might I grasp and hold him and kiss him as I would wish at his kisses I should die. So it's really this pursuit of this kind of unrequited love. Really,
it's painful.
In a way, and it's painful.
It's emotional.
She keeps being tied back, and Gretchen at the spinning wheel is really a metaphor of sort of the cyclical nature of what sounds like kind of a toxic relationship. That being kind of pulled back, sort of into the throes of a lover who, she's aware will never really fulfilled,
consummated.
or not
Fulfilled.
consummated, but fulfilled in the way that she desires. So next is one of my favorite Schubert songs. I sang this. This was one of the first songs I sang when I started my master's degree at North Park, actually. I don't know if I told you that when we were rehearsing.
This is the first time we're
it's the first time we're playing it, but
together.
That was what, I guess like eight years ago. So this song is like a coming home for me of sorts, and it's really like a balm in many ways. Well,
let's have the title of it first.
Yeah, so it's Nacht und Träume, night and dream, and the translation is Heilige Nacht, holy night. You sink down. Dreams also drift down, like your moonlight through space. Through the quiet hearts of men they listen with delight, calling out when the day awakens, return, holy night, fair dreams return. It's really, in many ways, like a lullaby.
Yes, it's
definitely
very dreamy.
Not in the way that Brahms kind of wrote lullabies. Like a few months ago now, I guess we did the Brahms songs, which the Brahms viola songs. That's a lullaby, but and in the text it's a lullaby. Even says in those Brahms viola songs.
There's something transcendent about this song. It feels like
this one's like in another realm. It's more. Strauss actually also wrote a song called Träume, which obviously is entirely. We could do a whole other recital on Strauss.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other realm. But in Schubert's own style, evokes a sort of ethereal nature of this, and in the music, in the accompaniment, in the piano part, and in the vocal line. The vocal line is very sustained, and the piano line is just kind of this gentle lilt, but not in a
it's very
it's as if you're rocking a really cradling a child to sleep. So and I think we all need that right now with everything that's going on in the country. We all need a little bit of calm. And then last but not least, we have
technically not our last one, but for the set.
Well, for the set. Rastlose Liebe, which is also what I say was up there with one of Schubert's most famous songs. I've seen and heard this coached in many a master class.
But I've never played it before.
But you've never played it before, so I was able to impart some of my wisdom, in these master classes for singers and pianists. Share, some things I've been coached on, and some just interpretive, and we kind of were able to, share that in our music making, which is so great. But Rastlose Liebe is just filled with excitement, and it's this feeling of Rastlose Liebe, your restless love. You're on the edge of this love that almost makes you crazy, and it's just so just makes you so excited, and you really hear it in the piano, part of the it's really this. It's exciting. The heart beating, and so I'll just share the translation. Into the snow, the rain, and the wind, through steamy ravines. We have a lot of those here in Highland Park. A lot of ravines. Right. Through mists, onwards, ever onwards, without respite. I would sooner fight my way through suffering than endure so much of life's joy. This affection of one heart for another, this restless love, how strangely it creates pain. So a lot of themes of love so powerful that it creates pain. Yeah. How shall I flee into the forest? All is in vain. Crown of life, happiness without peace. This, O love, is you.
I think it's interesting to note that Schubert had written some songs for this singer, and he wanted to marry her, but there was some decree in 1815 that said that people couldn't get married unless the man could support and had means of support. And at that time, he didn't. He had been turned down for a position that he had applied for. And so it was a very unfortunate time in his life, but I think that maybe this woman inspired him greatly. And I think he had other love interests, but this one in particular.
Yeah, just a side note observation. I'm just thinking through composers of the, early, mid, kind of what Schubert is still mid-classical era,
Yeah.
I'd say. And, Mozart also died very poor.
Poor and
Poor
so
and,
young.
and so young. And, obviously that was partially due to lack of healthcare advancements at the time.
Well, they had healthcare, but
no one
it
had
was
healthcare, right? No
quackery.
no one lived quite as long into life. But it's just reminding me, aside from like Bach was able to enjoy some acclaim in his time as Kapellmeister of all these famous churches. But really, a lot of these other composers who were writing art music at the time became more popular posthumously, kind of around this early to mid-classical era. Beethoven enjoyed some more acclaim in his lifetime, I think. But
I think what's interesting is that Schubert, I just was looking at my notes, Schubert actually was, he was a torchbearer at Beethoven's funeral a year before he himself died. And Beethoven apparently, this was interesting, he had Schubert had a friend, violinist Karl Holz, who visited him on his deathbed, and the last thing that Schubert wanted to hear was Beethoven's string quartet, Opus 131, one of his late quartets. And this Holz commented, "The King of Harmony has sent the King of Song a friendly bidding to the crossing." Eventually, the two were exhumed, and Schubert was moved to be
to Vienna, correct?
Yes, so Schubert and Beethoven's graves both. So I think that had Schubert lived much longer, who knows what we would have heard coming out of him? Who knows? And a lot of people just refuse to speculate and don't want to speculate because they say that for whatever reason, his life was complete as it was. I mean, we have an amazing number of works, and in addition to the Lieder, for which he's so famous, he wrote symphonies, he wrote numerous chamber music works for strings and piano. There's just a huge body of work that's amazing. I've played so much of it. I can't even imagine my life without Schubert. So I think, and there was just one other thing that I wanted to say one other thing, and I forgot what there was something that was I found very important that I've forgotten about.
But a note there.
Well, it's I think we've talked pretty much about everything. Did you know that he was the 12th child of 12 children? Can you imagine? They had very big families, but nine of the children died in infancy. So it just goes to show, back then, this is in a time when there were no antibiotics. People had much shorter lifespans. I guess Beethoven could be considered lucky because he lived from 1770 to 1827, whereas poor Schubert, he wasn't born until
almost 60. He was almost 60.
Yeah.
Which is probably pretty old at that time.
That's pretty old. But Schubert died at 31, so he was born, that means he was born in 1797, and he died in 1828. So, he overlapped with Chopin and Schumann, and his works were, during his lifetime, he had a small circle of friends that admired his music, but he never became really established. I mean, how many people really become well known?
Overshadowed by Beethoven at the time, who really expanded the symphonic framework.
But you know what it
and there
was?
so
It
much
was
focus and
the other composers that came after him that were still alive, Mendelssohn and Brahms and Schumann, and they resurrected and kept Schubert's music alive and made it much more popular than it was even in his own lifetime, which
Right.
sometimes we have to do that. We have to look back to see, are there things that are being overlooked? A lot of people become more famous posthumously. Well, yeah, and a few weeks ago when I was talking about Scott Joplin, he was popular in his lifetime, but he won a Pulitzer Prize
posthumously.
in the 1970s. He was long since gone. So, the thing about being a musician is that the music may be ephemeral, but the memories of it, and when we have recordings of it, when we have scores, it really lasts not just your own lifetime. It's forever. The music is forever.
And I was just going to add, thinking about why Schubert did not have this acclaim in his lifetime. I mean, his music was kind of written as Kammermusik. Art song was composed in small spaces, small living rooms, like we are here today.
He also was doing a lot of teaching just to stay afloat. And then in a few periods in his life, when a friend would house him and make him more comfortable, I think in the year of 1815, he wrote over 20,000 pages of music. There were periods in his time when some of his friends enabled him to pour all of his creative energies into his music. And we should be very thankful for that. Thankful for Schubert's friends who enabled him to be the great composer that he was.
And on that note, let's sing.
Yes, no, you sing.
Well, I'll sing. You play. Well.
Sah ein Knabe Röslein stehen, Röslein auf der Heide, war so jung und morgenschön, lief so schnell es nahe zu sehen, das mit viel in Freude. Röslein, Röslein, Röslein rennt, Röslein auf der Heide. Knabe sprach, ich breche dich, Röslein auf der Heide. Röslein sprach, ich stehe dich, dass du ewig denkst an mich, und ich will nicht leiden. Röslein, Röslein, Röslein rennt, Röslein auf der Heide. Und der wilde Knabe brach, Röslein auf der Heide,
There we go.
There we go.
The first part of our program is now complete. 4 songs by Franz Schubert. And now, Steffi, you may take a seat. And I will now play the Sonata, Opus 120, the Little A Major it's called. He wrote a rather grand scale A major sonata much later. This was composed in 1819. So he was 22 years old. That's still quite an achievement, I think, when you hear the beauty of this piece. And the reason I selected this for this evening is because I find it to be one of the most lyrical, song-like of his sonatas. So for those of you who would like to hear me playing Schubert, I know I've given a little promotion for this CD before. This Soiree CD has the Schubert Sonata in B major on it, and it's a beauty. It's absolutely wonderful. Here we go. I haven't played this in a very, very long time, and I just had this just yearning to play this piece again. So I hope you love it as much as I do. There you have it, the Little A Major by Franz Schubert in 3 movements. And I hope you enjoyed it. I really love this piece, and I think I'd like to roll it out for some concerts next season, if we have any live concerts. But certainly, it's a great little piece, so I hope you enjoyed it. So now comes the little surprise. How could we play anything of Schubert and leave out the next piece? It's a song that also spawned one of the most famous chamber music works in the literature, the Trout Quintet. So right now we will hear Die Forelle, the song, and then you will be treated to a pre-recorded performance of the 4th movement from the Trout Quintet that I performed at the Summit Music Festival with a wonderful bunch of wonderful musicians.
In einem Bächlein da schossen Frauen ein, die logische Forelle von übel wie ein Pfeil. Ich stand an dem Gestein und sah dieses Hero, das muntere Fischleins Maul, in klarem Bächlein zu, das muntere Fischleins Maul, in klarem Bächlein zu. Ein Fischel mit der Rot wohl eine Mut verstaut und saß mit kaltem Blut, bis sich das Fischlein ward. So lang dem Wasser hell, so traf sich nicht gebricht, so fällte die Forelle mit seiner Angel nicht, so fällte die Forelle mit seiner Angel nicht. Doch ich wollt den Diebe die Zeit so lang, macht das Bächlein tüchtig trüben, täglich ist gestarrt, so süßte seine Angel, das Bächlein, das Fischlein zappelt klein, und ich ein betrüger Brut, sah dein Betrüger an, und ich betrüger Brut, sah die Betrüger an.
Yeah, so now I can take a little
So-
break, and you can go have a listen to the Trout Quintet, the theme and variations. That this movement is absolutely gorgeous. So go enjoy, and I'll see you in about 8 minutes.
the Steinway is crap is doing crap in the circle. You're live.
Okay, so that's about it for tonight. And I had to refresh my memory and look up the names of those wonderful performers that you heard from the Summit Music Festival in New York, where I've been on faculty since 2011. On violin was Elena Perez, on viola, Juna Chung, on cello was Eugene Briskin, and on the double bass, Dennis Masuzo. This is really one of the most beloved pieces of chamber music, and I invite you to go listen to some of my recordings I have from live concerts. And I also invite you to go look up on YouTube. I have a performance live of the Wanderer Fantasy, and that's something that maybe we'll do here with the song The Wanderer. That's an amazing piece for solo piano. It's about 20 minutes long. You can find a performance of mine on YouTube, so go take a look. Thank you for listening, and this is good night, and we'll see you next week for Merdinger's Music on Mondays. Bye-bye.